and thanks for the presentation. Einat, are you ready?
Yes.
Do you feel ready? Were you born ready? So a
I'm
couple of
born
things
ready.
about Einat. So we used to work together back in Amdocs a few years ago. If you are not familiar with her right now, she is the director of data security at Anaplan. And before that, again, she worked for Amdocs for, I think, like 15, 20 years, something like this, right? Like you were born
Decade.
in Amdocs.
Decade.
When we worked together, she led a couple of cybersecurity teams as a senior cybersecurity manager, including IAM, operations, etc. So she brings a lot of experience to the room. And today she's going to speak about, again, seeing everything from the perspective of the CISO. So, Einat, you should have now remote control over the slides. Good luck.
Yes. So thank you, Gidi, for the introduction, and thank you for the Benji and May for the beautiful presentation. I love the content. I couldn't, stop listening, and thank you for that. I want to present a little bit, about the company I'm working for, a little bit about Anaplan. Anaplan is a company, it's a SaaS company that I'm working for the last 3 years. It's provide a platform that is dealing with analysis and planning. It helps the organization to have a collaborative planning. We also acquire a data and AI company in Israel 4 years ago. So this is also interesting. I'm based in Israel, so we are sitting very close to the data and AI group. The company itself has more than 2,000 customers. A lot of them are from the Fortune 500. We have more than 200 partners, Deloitte, Accenture, more. And we also have a lot of experts in the field globally. So it's a global company distributed all over the world. So it's a nice company. A little bit about myself. I'm the director there, like I said, in the last 3 years. Before that, I have been in Amdocs for more than 20 years, lots of roles. One of the latest one was the cybersecurity operation. What is the most important thing is that I'm based, like I said, in Israel. I'm a wife and a mother of 3 teenagers that using a lot of the GenAI applications. I can tell you that they are using it a lot. May, I can really connect. My son, my daughter use it a lot. Even for something that not always I like homework, but as long as they are finding ways to make them productive. So this is me. So if you see that, this picture was generated actually by one of the AI GenCraft tool. I found it actually very nice because we know that in the last century, we have lots of technological changes. We have the mobile phone and the social media back in the 2000s. We have also the cloud computing, the big data. And now what I believe, and I think we talked about it a lot, is that this is the big breakthrough is all the LLM, the large language model, ChatGPT. Of course, it's one use case, but there are a lot of examples like Bedrock, Vertex AI, and much more other open source that we have in the market. What I actually wanted to focus in this lecture is, organization use and adopt GenAI in two main ways. One is actually consuming GenAI, if it's either web or SaaS, and of course, building GenAI in a cloud host using a large language model, or LLM. The picture actually showed that. I don't know if you noticed, but I think it was actually trying to capture what I wanted. Why CISO should care? Let's see. So there are a few key questions that actually CISO are asking. Who is using the technology in the organization? what's the use case, what's the purpose. We have go-to-market using it for sales, preparing presentation. We have developer using it a lot for testing their code or creating them some piece of code. How can I protect it? How can I protect the data? How can I make sure that the employees are interacting it and making sure the code is safe and data is not leaked? How I can manage the risk as a data security director or as a CISO? How can we really prioritize them and balance? In one hand, we have a lot of benefits, lots of opportunities, but we also want to make sure that we secure the company. I listed here a few examples from the last year incidents. Some of them I think you are familiar with. There was a data leakage also in Samsung. One of the employees also used ChatGPT to test its code. ChatGPT itself, OpenAI as a company, also confirmed they had a data breach. So this is something that we need to be aware. We need to start and think about the strategies. And May, thank you for actually sharing all of these good ideas. I want to jump into more tactical and more approach. But before that, I want to talk about the risks, just in a high level, to connect to what Benji said, so we can connect the risk that we have, that we believe that are the top 5. And obviously, every organization have to assess and connect it to the business needs. For example, our company is using not only consuming a GenAI application, but also building. So those things need to be obviously very attached to the strategy of the company. So, okay. So the top 5, I listed here the top 5. I believe that the first 3 are high, the other 2 are medium, which some of them are very clear, so I don't have to explain. We have the sensitive information, leakage, data loss. Either it's from the prompt or uploading files. This is quite clear and one of the biggest risks, and I will talk about it a lot. And second thing is the prompting, adversarial prompting. Benji also discussed a lot about it. One of the major risks that we have during, especially in development. Actors may use these models to cause model to be used in a way that will expose the confidential information. So this is something that we want to address, the prompt injection, for example. We have hallucination, a biased or inappropriate output. This is like an output risk. This is something that we know. Yes, we have an LLM model that can generate text and it can sound plausible, but it's factually incorrect. We know that LLM, I hope that we know that LLM can generate harmful content. It doesn't have the semantic understanding of the content they generate. So that's why we have to think about solutions, and we will talk about it in the controls of the security controls. And the other 2 are medium. This is what we believe, but I still wanted to point it out, like data poisoning and also retrieval risk, when we talk about that the user actually can get a data that is not authorized to see, is not authorized to access to it. So we will talk about it as well. So how to mitigate them? Okay. So before I'm starting to talk about mitigations and what to do and how to deal with a specific GenAI risk and what are the security considerations, first of all, we need to think about the baseline, the basic control that we have. I divided into 2. We have the consumed GenAI. We talked about that some organizations are using, for example, Slack Elevate. Yeah, they have an AI module that can help the sales and marketing to have a better, create a better revenue. So this is something that we have. The Zoom has also an AI capabilities to summarize meetings. There is lots of great utilities that we also have to assess before we actually use them in the company. Example is also Atlassian. Atlassian, which is also Jira and Confluence, also have a very important AI intelligence. So before we actually think about what kind of controls we need to address, first of all, what is the basic stuff? We have a GenAI acceptable use policy. What are the use cases that do we actually have a visibility of what are the people are using? Do we have some checklist for security, for new softwares? We have a process like a vendor assessment. Do we include kind of questions and checklists to make sure that this application can be used, and what are the use cases that it is allowed to? Yes, what is approved and not approved. So basically, there are very basic and very useful tools, even data security standards. What are the data classification? What type of data we are allowed or not allowed to use for those kind of tools that can help either developers or either employees from marketing, finance, HR, either technical or non-technical. They all love it, they all want to use it, but do we have a data security properly standards? And also, we have also the basic control. We have CASB, DLP, other security web gateway. All of these controls can be used before we actually think and consider what we can do. We can actually leverage some of the DLP access policies and some other nice controls to help us. Is this approved? So yes, so at least we monitor it, we know, the developers or the employees are not using it under the radar. So at least this is my philosophy. We are not blocking, we are allowing, but we monitor. We monitor, we do awareness, but at least we know what's happening. And also a lot of discussions, steering committees. This is very, very helpful. And of course, for people that are very smart and wants to have more of a bot detection tools, I know there are some companies that build even homegrown security solution to detect. This is nice to have, but also very useful. On the building side, when you build a GenAI application, also, similarly, the foundation is the cloud security. You want to use Microsoft Azure OpenAI. You want to use Google Vertex AI, the BRAD. You want to use Bedrock from AWS. That's fine. We need to make sure we have a cloud security standards. Do we have a proper tooling and standard for that to do some assessment of the current vulnerabilities before we actually look for solutions specifically to address the threats that are coming from the new LLM technologies. We also making sure that we have application security capabilities and API security before we start. And this is the basic, and those are actually common security measures. I recommend also as working in a company like Anaplan, we also starting with the foundation. So this is like the basic. And of course, I will be happy to continue what we do more or what I recommend to do more. Great. So in the coming 3 slides, I'll talk about a more specific, we talked about the risk, but now I'll talk more about the security controls. The first one is the data loss. Like I mentioned, one of the big risks that we have. So I divided it into 2 sections. What kind of mitigation and control we recommend or we use in order to have more control when we consume GenAI. So this is more likely like the most critical risk. Obviously, we start, like I said, with awareness and the acceptable use policy and all the basic. This is like the prerequisite, but also, like I said, we can also use our common solution like DLP, CASB, DSPM, whatever we have in the company, either to, if you have an unapproved application, block it. If you have an approved one, then great, monitor it, but also making sure that you prevent some sensitive information to be uploaded to the one that are unapproved. So those are very common sense control, and you can use them. You can actually define them and have a better visibility. You know, those kind of tools can help you with the visibility, control, and help you at least, if you cannot block, at least you know, and you can act upon it. But with regards to when you build a GenAI application using an LLM that is hosted on the cloud, so this is like a little bit different. Those risks are not exactly the same, but what we do care is about the data that we train for those LLMs, making sure that the data itself will be protected with some data security controls, like audit, logging, encryption, threat detection, you know, those basic standards that we have. And this is like something that can help us at least to prevent whatever, to minimize the risk and the exposure. Obviously, there is also important thing to know that when we develop those or building this internally in the company, we need to think about if it's exposed, it's external or internal facing application. Obviously, the controls will be different. And by the way, we do have some more detail. These are only in high level. I have a more detailed requirements that are very listed in a way that are what is a must, should, or nice to have. If you want, I can share it after the meeting. This is something that we created. Also, we're leveraging the best practices from Gartner and other teammates and other documents in the network that help us to generate those kind of controls that can help us when we are evaluating either a new solution from a new vendor that we want to consume, or when we are actually building our own application and we are in the process of doing a POC with Microsoft Azure and others. So how can we make sure that the LLM that we are building and testing is really protected? So this is something that it's worth checking. If you want, I can share. On top of this, we also making sure that what is common is also having an access policies to which will be granular enough to actually to the one that customizing those GPTs. So this is something that can be used as a mitigation. And of course, we all know that we have a chat history, right? When we use ChatGPT, and I use it a lot, I have a history of 1 year, unfortunately, 1 year using for my personal things. So it's very important to purge it and make sure that you clean this, and also making sure that the vendor has the capability to purge, to disable, and having more controls around access and audit. And if you build an application like this or using or adopting, you need to make sure you have this kind of strong capabilities with this LLM. So this is one of the things that you should care. So enough talking about data loss. Next one is the adversarial prompting. Benji talked a lot about it. It's not much common in when you consume GenAI, but it still doesn't matter that we still have to do the input and the output logging and monitoring to ensure that the vendor is actually perform this, and so this is important. But when you build it, this is more critical, and there are some controls that can be used. Benji mentioned the system prompt. I will not repeat. This is something which is good to use as a guardrail for a common prompt injection techniques. But it's also important when you are doing an analyze. For example, we are analyzing what AWS can provide, what Microsoft can provide. Is it having a strong building prompt injection capabilities? And we know that it's not only us, but also our vendors are also using already OpenAI or more correctly, they're using the Microsoft Azure OpenAI. So to make sure that those LLMs, those algorithms are actually having a very strong built-in prompt injection, detection, and prevention capabilities. And if it's not enough, we also have, when we are doing some POCs, we also create some test cases, and we are doing some periodic manual reviews. So our architect team actually right now doing it by themselves, but obviously we will want to not to have only internal, but also external, some red team exercise, so we can really test the capabilities and ensure that we have a resiliency to the common attacks. So this is the mitigations that can help us. Another, next slide. The last three one. I don't know if we have a lot of controls that can help us there, but on the output risk, what we can focus mostly is awareness. May said that, and I really connect to what she said. The training is very important. The training to ensure the user understand that hallucination, biased, harmful, or inappropriate output, it's an inherent limitation of this LLM. So this is a key. It's a key for the success. And also working very closely with the development team. You know, I'm sitting in Israel, so this is a great opportunity to work very closely with data scientists and people, and always collaborating and communicating. So I'm hearing things that maybe I shouldn't have heard if I wasn't sitting there in open space, and I'm a nice person, so people talk to me. So this is an opportunity to collaborate, to share the guideline, to socialize. So, and I know that we have done so much in the last year. So think about it, all of this, we are in a better place. We have more awareness, more learning, and maybe next year we'll have to think about other risks that we need to address, but at least we have a better and open discussion. And what we actually, when we guide them, it's not only, you know, it's games, it's not only lectures and showing them what are the procedures and guidelines, but also very funny and stories that can also to have more engagement. So this is something to consider. We also, when we think about it, the last two risks, like data poisoning and retrieval, those are like, we believe that our medium depends on the use case, depend of the business, what is the business is using. But if we look at it, when we are doing this with our team, we actually, when we provide them those guidelines, we didn't have to invent the wheel. We actually tell them, you are training this data. The data is not connected to the internet. It has all the security control. It's not accessible. You have encryption at rest. You know who's managing. So we didn't invent anything. We just making sure that they have more visibility, more awareness to what they are doing. And we can say that the work that have been done in the last 4 years, it's actually dramatically reducing all the PT findings, and this is a great result when you're actually working from the beginning and not coming to you like, oh, we just developed it, just look at it, and here it is. So at least we can hear about it even from the hackathon phase. So we are partnering with the dev team during the hackathon. So this is an amazing opportunity even to brainstorm what they can do, what the business will do with this algorithm, if it's a chatbot or if it's something for executives to use. So this is something that help us as a security to get prepared to do some, to not only to do the awareness, but also to think about solution for the future. So even if we don't know right now what to do, so we do have an expert, and we have a very wide team that we can leverage. And we worked also with Prompt Security and also other companies, security companies, to evaluate their solution along with the development team. So that's a funny thing that one of the director of the data and AI actually pointed me out this is a security company I think we should look at. So this is something that I haven't had the experience only in Anaplan, that the director of the data and AI actually think about a security company that may help to validate the data, or to at least to help him to have a better coding and a better experience during the development. So this is amazing, and I think this is my recommendation. The last one is the last risk is the retrieval risk. When we think about it, we want to make sure that a user is actually, when he's exposed to a data, it's a data that he is supposed to see and he's entitled. And why we think about it, when I'm a C-level, that I'm actually using a chatbot and I want to get an information, or if I'm just an analyst, not sure I can see the same data, I'm not exposed to the same information from the HR, finance, and other applications. So this is something that either if you insure it from the application that you buy or the vendor that provide you, or if you develop it, to put attention on the authorization. So we haven't looked at this. It's an important part of control. Now, a little bit about the regulatory and the ethical consideration. Yeah. There is actually I'm not going to talk a lot about all of those points, but it is like Benji and May mentioned already, there are data privacy and disinformation, IP protection, all of those kind of things that we should look at. What I can provide from our experience, obviously, the key things is that when we have a technology innovation, we work closely, the legal and security from the beginning, and this is something that can reduce a lot of problems in the future, reduce costs, because we can talk about not only about those third party that we want to use, the terms of use, and if we need to have some disclaimer or so, wherever the legal team are involved from the beginning. So this is one of the 2 cents I can share. On top of it, if you look in the future on, or you're already looking on Microsoft OpenAI, there is also there is a document that they shared, Microsoft Customer Copyright Commitment. We also looked at it. We think it's a good recommendation to use for, especially to avoid copyright infringement. So they have some mitigation listed there. So we also recommend to look at it. So this is my recommendation about that. And for the future, if we'll think about, we want to build resiliency. So it's just a summary, is that what I believe is that the GenAI security is like, it's very nascent, right? It's rapidly evolving. We see that what I have think about it last year, it's not what I think today. We evolved and it's evolving, and we have to be like to embrace all the time the continuous learning and mindset to keep up to date. What is important is to continue to do the monitoring and threat intelligence, and also to do some POCs of new solutions. I always, and I think the vendors and they're familiar with me, to always try to look for opportunities. Obviously, after the foundation is stable and ready, what we can provide more to the end user, to the developers or employees to protect our companies. So this is something that we do, always keeping up to date. So this is also my recommendation. But what is more important is also to collaborate not only within the company, within the organization, but also outside, like we do here. And what I would like to share is that we also want to invite you all on the meetup that we have in Anaplan. It's an in-person meetup. And this meetup will talk about also how to securely empowering AI And we will talk more about details about what we are doing in Anaplan. And we have very good speakers that will join us. It will be in person. It will be in 2 weeks from now. If you want, we can share after the link to participate. It will be, of course, pizza and beer and swag, of course. So it will be very fruitful. And what is important is that we can talk about real example, more tactical things, and to see examples and demos and how we can protect. And we believe that this is the best tool for us, not only to have the foundation and all this good stuff that we talked about, but also to talk. And that's why we established this also at Anaplan. So I use this stage to invite you all. And to summarize the approach that we talked about, this is like a summarize for what we talked. We have the foundation, things that are basics that we have to before we actually looking on what kind of control we need for when we consume GenAI, when we build an AI. Basically, it will be not only with cloud security, data security, but also awareness. This is one of the key things. And before we actually leverage in specific control, if it's for a prompt filtering, context safety, prompt injection detection, all of those good stuff that we are using and we want to continue to use, and of course embrace the learning, right? We want to always to keep up to date. So you are all invited to the meetup so we can meet and continue discuss and stay in touch. And you can also talk to me on the social media. I'm available on all the channels, so you can reach me out, and that's it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Anat. So you have 2 questions waiting for you. From both of them are from Vioma. Can you shed some light on GenAI for DevSecOps?
Okay, so if I understand the questions correctly, DevSecOps, we look at it as a concept that our security team working very closely with engineering. It's like an approach that working collaborative and having more secure coding, secure from the beginning, right, during the CI/CD process. So I believe it's in my opinion, this is something that it's good to, especially when we are using APIs and we are doing this. So I believe that this is this will be the future. I don't know if there are already. Obviously, there are some tooling that's already leveraging some ChatGPT or other GenAI to protect, to have more insight on vulnerabilities, to give you more context about some vulnerabilities. So obviously, there is a lot of room for that to actually to use that during this for this method. I hope that's answer. I believe that this is something that we will have to do. Maybe if not right now, if the market is not, or if it's not available right now or not mature enough, but I think this is the direction. It will be like we have an application security, right, from the code from the beginning with the design and all these gates. So it will be also for when you are adopting GenAI, in my opinion.
And the next question that Vayoma asked is, what I understand is that deepfakes, for an example of GenAI, What I understand is that deepfakes are an example of GenAI, based on that understanding, some of the big risks that they pose, she or he wants to understand the kind of laws and measures in place and what to look for while we might deal with them.
So I believe that this is something that my expertise is more of generating context and NLP, NLQ, but I believe that if someone else on the panel wants to answer that, feel free about the laws and measures. I know that we have the AI Act I know we have some emerging framework about this, but this is not my specialty on the data, on the
I think
legal
that what you
arena.
mentioned are, what you mentioned are pretty good. But again, I'll repeat the question just for the sake of May and Benji, if you want to also respond to that one. The question is, based on the understanding of the person that asked it, deep fakes are an example of GenAI. Based on that understanding, some of the big risks that they pose, the person who questioned it asked, they want basically to understand the kind of laws and measures that are in place and what to look for while we might deal with them.
I want to add, you know, we mentioned, we did mention about some framework that are evolving around this, like the AI Act, etc. But if you want more, I can get. I know that our DPO is also dealing with this right now, so I can get more technical, more detailed information if Bioma wants. I can offline provide that with our DPO in Anaplan. So
excellent. So besides again the other panelists to may respond to that one again, feel free to reach out to Einat directly. She has her contact details here.
I already got a few. I already got a lot of offline requests. So that's
maybe
it's
good. Your contact, maybe it's not. I don't know.
I saw those people. I hope that I'm validating things all the time. Trust and validate. I'm validating that the person exists also here as a participant. But yes, for all of you who ask things, I will be happy to share. Those are public information. Yes, I worked on some of this, obviously, but this is something that I can share.
Okay.
I want to say something about deepfake, about legislation. There are various legislators that are trying to tackle that element. And to be honest, I'm not against legislation. I think it's very important. We all have to adhere to legal frameworks, absolutely. But in my eyes, when we're talking about fake news, and I mentioned it a little bit when I talked about social media and content creation and campaigning, and I did reference the upcoming election. No offense to legislation, it's going to be too little too late. Once the data is out there, and that's what I'm trying to tell. I recently had someone reach out to me. She had a career on OnlyFans for a while, and she decided that's it. I don't want to do that anymore. And she was trying to.
Can you give me 2 minutes?
Someone...
Oh, I thought. Okay, I thought he was going to be on. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks, Vince. So she asked, can she change her reputation? Can this data be deleted? And the answer is not really. Even if we go to any platform and ask them, and let's say they take down that content, great. Who promises us that no one took a print screen and going to upload it 5 minutes later? I'm not even going into old scrapped internet pages. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about someone re-uploading it. So I think that at the end of the day, with all due respect to legal entities, they will try, and it will be a little bit too little too late. Yeah.
So the right to be forgotten is not a real thing.
No, absolutely not.
Not when it's out there already. Yeah.
I
still remember that.
I mean, it's a great idea. It's just impossible to implement. So but it's a great idea.
I still remember that the one thing that you told me that we volunteered in presenting for kids in schools how to use the internet safely, and one of the statements that you said is, don't tell them, don't take a picture you don't want your parents to see, because everyone wants to rebel. But ask them, or tell them, never ask, or before you take a picture of yourself, think if you want your grandparent, your grandmother to see it. And that's basically it. If you don't want your grandparents or your parents or your spouse or something like this, or your kids as an adult, to see something like this ever in the internet, whether it's a picture or a text, perhaps you should not create it at all.
And that's true for real data as well as fake data.
Yeah, absolutely. Benji, 3 more questions that came up to you. The first one is, what have you been able to do in a GenAI pen test? We discussed pen test a bit before, so that's another question related to that one. Again, what have you been able to do in GenAI pen test?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it sort of differs between the sort of type of access and agency that the specific application has in terms of privileges. But I mean, the sort of most common thing is both outside of jailbreaking it to discuss topic and content moderation issues that it's not allowed to do.